We're not actually sure what the active union is.
Debate.
I think that will probably be the only one. Debate and drink.
Yeah.
Young people, students, debate, drink, yes.
No, I don't know. I haven't heard of the Gatehouse.
No, I don't either.
It's a Victorian house made into... What's it called? What's it called? Made into a... What's this place?
The Gatehouse. I don't know what it looks like in there. Do you?
The people are like the people you would meet anywhere else.
Most have titles, I'd guess. Probably inherited titles.
Lots of aspiring right-wing politicians
cash for honours.
join to make their name there. It's very unfair because I'm sure a lot of other people
Sort of George Osborne type
join
figure.
in too.
Everyone's quite on a level, you know, doesn't feel particularly kind of hierarchical.
Illustrious speakers, big, sort of impressive history. I think maybe elitism as well, because generally I think the people I know that sort of run it sort of quite hacking and it's like socialising and stuff like that.
A bar? I thought it was like a restaurant thing.
I joined the union in 2003. Old members like me, you know, who just want to go in and take advantage of life membership, have a nice lunch and some cheap drinks, of which I've had a few. That's it really, yeah.
It's not just that neither. It's not just for those sandwiches or whatever, right? It's nice to just come out your place instead of looking at four walls all the time, because that could be very depressing, right?
And it's not just a piss up either.
No.
That's what people don't realise.
Can you take me in there?
Apart from being open only for people over 25, it doesn't exclude anyone on any other basis. So as long as if you want to come here, you can come here. You don't have to be homeless. There's no criteria.
There's absolutely nothing elitist about the union whatsoever.
Mainly because they know they get something to eat, something to drink. They've got somewhere to sit and chat with people. If they need help, guidance help and knowing where to go to get further help outside of the Gatehouse, they can speak to people about that as well. It's a social thing as well, you know, they see people come here that have friends here and then they'll it's very much a social, I think Pete said earlier, a bit of a social atmosphere to it as well.
It isn't just an old members drinking club for like old boys of public schools and stuff like that. It really isn't like that. Like there are loads of different characters and different sorts of people involved.
It seems to have both sides. You have the university and the educated side, and then you have the townies that are just human beings struggling on the same as the rest of us.
You're expecting a group of 20-year-olds to run these, like presidents arriving. We're going to screw up, like it's inevitable.
Well, I think there's definitely a contrast that it's literally just opposite on the street, and I think I don't know if there's much friction between the kind of people who go to the different institutions, but I'm not sure.
You don't tend to see interaction between people coming out of the union and guests.
You've got the marvellous contrast of, I hope, one of the providers being opposite the people that are reaping the benefits, but you've got the two sides of the coin, and I imagine that the students, when they see a rabble of revellers standing around the blue doors waiting to get their sandwiches, they must think, oh dear, there's that bunch of people that sat at the back of the class and they're right where they deserve to be.
And knowledge is a very dangerous thing, I think, in this case, because I think the people outside the university have probably like a more accurate view of the place in a very strange way than the people in the university who don't spend enough time here to really understand it, I think.
I used to live in Oxford before I came to university. So I think externally, like before you become a member, or before you joined, you feel more that there's a sort of a huge amount of prestige about this place.
I think the usual reaction is, oh, you're one of them. It's like, no, I'm an exception. Because there's no point arguing with their ideas about what you are and that stereotype, because then they're just like, oh, you really are one of them. You really did get drawn in, didn't you? And it's like...
Well, I see things differently now. I've turned into a type.
Years ago, when I used to see a homeless person with a dog, I used to think, you know, you can look after a dog, perhaps you can look after yourself a bit better, which is how I used to think about it. But having come here and seen and spoken to people about it, you can see that looking after that dog was the most important thing to them. And often it's because lots of people have let them down in the past, and you know that their pet's never going to let them down. So my perception's changed.
I think it's quite upsetting as well, because like, no, it is, because it's like, because people sort of judge you without even kind of realising, and you were the same the day before you decided to get involved and the day before you ran for election, and then overnight it all completely changes, and like just the way that people perceive you does completely change.
Some people look at me, like you said, perceive me or whatever. They don't know who Austin is. They never will know until you get to talk to me and find out about me. You can't tell just by looking at a person.
The caricature that gets defined of you by other people's perceptions in the press, and they're only a very little way, but you can find yourself
playing up to it.
Yeah, conforming to it. You can become a caricature of yourself because people who have never met you have this preconceived idea that they come and talk to you, they expect a certain kind of interaction.
I see lots of people which won't drink alcohol. I see lots of people which won't take, drugs, everything, if you want. But I not drink alcohol. I not, not take drugs, nothing. A normal person which want normal life, but it's in the street. Nothing do it, about what's this wrong. I don't have knife, gun, or I don't know, bazooka, or it's crazy, something like this. Just live in the street, that's it.
If you're in a tent for any amount of time, it can be like being on the other side of society. You can feel damp, isolated, and you look through the restaurant window and they're sitting there eating their smoked salmon and their steaks, and the glass is 1/4 inch between you and them, between being out on the street in a cardboard box and being in that warm restaurant drinking Chateauneuf de Pape. And it makes you wonder why you're not in the restaurant and they're in the tent.
Yeah, I think research would suggest that once you become homeless, it's very hard to then get out of homelessness.
But I try and change this. Maybe it's very hard, but I want.
Like outside of the union, I think there is a bit of a negative image of the union, but I think it's changing, and I really hope it is.
No one acknowledges the potential this society has. Like, if people actually invested in it and everyone got involved, I think it could recover itself.
Whatever we pretend to be and whatever we would like to be, when it comes down to it, you save your own throat first,
I try to keep true to myself, right? Because that's the only thing I can do, right? There's nothing else out there I could be true to, right? I don't wear no mask, right? I don't do that. But there's a lot of people out there in our society do that every day. Because, here comes the reason, because they don't know who they are. So you have to wear a mask. I don't wear no mask. I let people see who I am because there's nothing to hide, right? Flower grows because of you. Each and every day. Just warming up, so don't take it, right? Let me warm myself up a bit.